David, finish this line. Hey,
I'm walking here.
Thank you. I didn't know this was from this movie. That's all.
Bye. This is the Uncultured Pop Culture podcast, and this is David, as usual, joined by the co-host,
Brandon, as usual.
That's right. Back with season 2, episode 2. It's crazy that we're in our second season. I still cannot believe it.
I can't believe it either. It's almost like nothing changed because we've just been doing the same thing for a year. But, you know, that's good. That means we're getting the hang of it. So we should have a pretty good episode for you today because we're talking about a sad movie from 1969. This was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And we're talking about a weird ass album from the 90s. So this is David's episode. He decided that he wanted to listen to Beck. And I kind of chose this album because this is regarded as Beck's best album.
Right.
So, you know, we'll talk about it. We'll see if that is the case or not. And then
we'll see what happens.
David wanted to do this movie as well. And I had no idea what it was. I've never heard of it. And I did not know it won Best Picture. So
yeah, we have a lot to talk about when it comes to the movie, I will say. And I will also say that this is a movie that I have never seen before. I watched it for the episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think that's why I didn't want to watch it so much.
Well, I'll tell you this right now. This is an album I've never heard before as well.
Ooh,
so,
okay. This is a good episode then.
We're going in completely blind here. So hopefully it holds up to what our expectations were.
And talking about expectations, I just got to say, Armenia and Jennifer, boom, I got you.
That's good.
I finally did it.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, no, I know
because
you're fine.
I didn't have anything written down, I don't think, this week for me to work it in. Nice. I feel like it really cuts deep when there's some way I can work in a reference. That's
literally,
really
that's the worst.
This does hurt a little bit, though, I will say.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
I will say I do have to give birth to a new running, trend on the podcast, or by saying that I am again recording in the bathroom for Wi-Fi reasons or internet reasons. We will see if next week, it's the same thing. We'll see.
We will let you know
this
every time.
This is the third time already?
Yeah. This is beyond the third time. I think this might be the fourth or fifth.
I
know for sure we did Shrek from the bathroom. So
that's true, which honestly fits.
Exactly. But before we get into everything that we have to talk about this week, I do have to ask the eternal question, of course. David, what have you watched in this past week?
Well, I finally got time to go back to the movie theater, which if you listen to last week's episode, it sounds like I always had time, but I was very busy for a while and I finally went back and I wasted my time on a bad movie because I watched Scream 7. Yeah, it was not good. It's a 2.5. It's not like it's terrible.
I mean, that's pretty bad for you, though.
It's not like terrible, but it's not good. They obviously lean. Well, okay, there's backstory to this too. This is the 7th Scream movie. Now, I've only seen the first one, but a couple of years ago, they not rebooted the franchise, but like made a sequel to it that kind of revitalized it, which was Scream, that came out 2022, which I know is the same name as their first film.
What
but
number
it's
is that
technically
supposed to be?
Scream 5.
Okay, thank you.
So they made that film and then they made Scream 6, which came out a year later, roughly. And those movies were well received and big successes. So then they obviously decided to make Scream 7.
Yeah, because after 6 comes 7.
Exactly. Ooh. Anyways, I'm not going to actually say the words. Problem is, one of the actresses, I believe her name is Melissa Barrera. I'm not 100% sure if that's right. Don't come at me. When the whole Israel-Palestine thing started.
Yeah, 90 years ago or whatever. Sorry.
Yeah, 90 years ago.
Longer than that,
she's
but
old.
yeah, after October 7th.
Yes, after October 7th, she came out in support of Palestine, and the production fired her. And when that happened, several other members of the production also left with her, including Jenna Ortega. So after that, they obviously couldn't continue the story from Scream 6, so they scrapped what they had and just kind of made it its own little story, bringing back people from the previous films, like the legacy characters pretty much. So it makes sense why it's bad. You know, like they had very little time and they were just kind of like, oh, we just got to make it for money now that like the interesting story that we set up with Scream 5 and 6 can't be continued, kind of. Also, screw them for firing that actress.
Yeah. Is this Paramount?
This is Paramount, yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
I will say this happened before like the current regime, obviously.
Yeah, but they do suck,
still. So, yeah.
There's a reason they're in like $80 million of debt, or sorry, $80 billion of debt.
Which, yeah,
something
they're not
insane
gonna,
like that.
They're not going to make money.
And they're taking on another $100+ billion of debt from Warner Brothers. I don't think that's going to work. I hate to tell you.
That's a whole another episode. If you guys are interested in that, check out just the trades and read about that shit show. And the podcast, The Town.
I believe this was Ted Sarandos of Netflix fame. I think he's the CEO or whatever, that said in 5 years, when Paramount can no longer support both itself and Warner Brothers, we'll be there to buy up the pieces.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny.
People are saying that they literally did nothing and got $2.5 billion. Like, they're totally the winners here, and their stock is back up.
Yeah, anyway, that's a whole other podcast as well. That's not us, you know.
Follow us here for that podcast. No,
exactly. We'll make bonus episodes covering everything else that's going on in Hollywood and the world. But anyway, I have listened to an album this week.
Sorry, I forgot to ask. Let me ask you, what have you been listening to this week?
Well, I've been listening to an album this week, and it was promised. It was foretold months ago. Mm-hmm. This album is The Romantic by Bruno Mars.
I've been looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this.
I don't have a lot of thoughts on it because it's boring and it doesn't need to exist.
About what I expected.
I'm not a big fan of Bruno Mars, but he has kind of like fallen by the wayside recently because Harry Styles is my new like arch nemesis in pop music. And his album I will be talking about next week because it's coming out very soon. But anyway, The Romantic by Bruno Mars, 9 songs. I think 4 of them, I would say, have like a Latin flavor to them. They're all like throwback sound songs, and they all have way too much reverb on them in general. I feel like it's trying to make it sound like it was a live recording when I don't believe it was. Maybe it was, who knows? But it sounds weird and I don't like it. That's beside the point though, because this is essentially like Bruno Mars's whole throwback shtick, but done worse. Because at least with 24K Magic, which I believe was also 9 songs and also 9.5 years ago.
That's crazy.
Which is insane how quickly time passes. But that album at least had some interesting production moments and some interesting songwriting moments. This feels like nothing. It feels like there's essentially no reason to listen to this album. It seems to be appealing to not many people because it's not getting a lot of streams. I mean, we're still in the first week here, so we'll see like if it starts to pick up.
Right.
But usually if you don't have good first week streams, especially if you're a big name artist like that, it does not bode well for your future. So, you know, this might be the time when Bruno Mars is shifting into a legacy act, which would be interesting. Yeah, I thought this album is a skip. It's not bad. I rated it a 2. It's just not interesting at all. And it's not worth your time.
Where does that stand with his other albums?
He's really not as bad as I like make him out to be, because most of his music is just like 2 or 2.5. I just find his voice to be very grating after a while. But I don't think he's like a bad writer or musician or untalented. I just like get annoyed with his voice sometimes. But it's not the worst thing he's ever made, but I would have to go back and listen to his albums to tell you where it ranks, and I'm not going to do that, unfortunately, because I have, many other things I'd rather do with my time.
Life is too short.
Exactly. And that's kind of how I felt after about halfway through this album, where I was like, if it's really bad, I'm going to start like, skipping around in songs.
Right.
Because I was listening to it and I was like, this just does nothing. I'm kind of just wasting my time here. So
I will say I am more excited for the Harry Styles album to come out next week, because I know you're going to have more to say about it and harsher things probably.
I probably will, but at the same time, it could be the same situation where it's just like, it's just boring and it's not bad. It's just nothing interesting happens in it. But on that note, it's time to get into our album of this week. And this man is the opposite of boring, let me tell you, because this is Odelay by Beck. This is the fifth album by Beck. It was released June 18th, 1996 by DGC Records and Bong Load Records. Great name. There were 5 singles from the album, but only Where It's At preceded the album in May of 1996. Devil's Haircut was released in December, and The New Pollution, Sissy Neck, and Jackass were released throughout 1997. I don't like saying one of those words because it feels like it'll be a slur in 10 years, and I will mention that later. So my apologies right off the bat if that word does become a slur. It has not been changed yet, so I will read it as it appears, but I will not refer to the song by its name. Now, I got to tell you, Beck Hansen, that's his name. He was born and raised in Los Angeles, California.
Oh.
He had a unique upbringing. His mom was an actor and a musician and part of Andy Warhol's Factory, and his dad was a film composer and session musician. He was influenced by the multicultural and experimental music scene in LA and became a street performer at age 16 after dropping out of school. It also said he was rejected from a performing arts high school in downtown LA, and I believe that's a connection to Uncultured Pop Culture's very own co-host, David. Is that correct?
Well, wait, was it?
It doesn't say what school it was. It just says a performing arts school downtown LA.
I will say it could not be my high school because that opened in 2009, I think.
Oh, was it not also downtown before it got this new building?
I don't think it existed before it got the new building, honestly.
Damn. It's probably not a connection to Uncultured Pop Culture's very own co-host, David.
Unfortunately. That would have been cool. I will say, Doja Cat, I think, went to my high school, though.
I believe a lot of people have gone to your high school.
Yeah, a lot of people, probably.
Well, that was a stupid statement. That was ridiculous. A lot of people have gone to your high school. I feel like a lot of famous people have gone to your high school.
I could see that.
Fix that. Anyway.
There we go.
Beck moved to New York City and became involved in the anti-folk movement. This genre and scene was a rejection of what was seen as a commercialization of folk music and was a return to the original idea of folk as a DIY and political genre. After being homeless the entire time he was in New York, he decided to come back to LA, where he continued to develop his own idiosyncratic style of folk mixed with hip-hop. During this time, he wrote his most successful song, Loser. Beck did not care for this song, but Bong Load Records pushed it as a single, and it caught on through college radio. So kind of a cool thing that doesn't really exist/happen anymore.
True.
The success of the single allowed him to sign with David Geffen's label, DGC Records.
Wow, a little connection back to Shrek.
Exactly. I want to ask you, have you heard any of Beck's music before?
Yes, I have. I have obviously heard his cover. I don't remember the name of the song, but he covered a song, and his cover was used in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So that we've obviously both heard. And that's the only thing I've ever heard from him.
You've never heard Loser?
I don't think so.
Wow. Okay.
I know about it, but I don't think I've heard it. But it was based off that song because I do like that cover. And based off that song, I was like, oh, I'd be interested to hear more stuff from him.
So I assume that means you have heard nothing from this album before.
Absolutely nothing.
Okay, cool.
Yep, not one thing.
Now, Beck signed a unique contract with DGC, which allowed him to make and release additional albums independently. This was very uncommon.
Wow.
After the sustained success of Loser, he needed to make a follow-up album, though, for DGC. He started this next album, rooted mostly in folk music, with his previous producers, but it was not living up to what he had envisioned. During this time, he was also facing a lot of criticism for being a poser and being a one-hit wonder. And because of this, he had internalized the idea that this was his last chance at making an album, so he wanted to make the best thing that he possibly could. And out of that, Odelay was born. He ditched his old producers, Tom Rothrock and Rob Schnapf, for the Dust Brothers, who were known for their hip-hop production. The only song that survived the change of style and change of album is Ramshackle. The album extensively used samples, and many of them were from a wall of records in the Dust Brothers studio. Beck said that he was able to listen to a lot of them while they were waiting for Pro Tools to open up so they could record, because this was the 90s and the computers were slow as hell.
Yep.
A lot of the vocals were scratch takes that they ended up liking a lot and then never replaced, which gives it a very DIY sound that Beck is known for. The title of the album is a reference to a Mexican slang word that means cool. And it's also a pun on the words Odelay because of the length of time between this and his previous album. Because those other independent albums that he had were released like within the same year and a half span. He was just like putting out a ton of music, and then it took him like 2 years to put this album out.
Wow.
The album cover is a picture of a Commodore dog, I don't know if that's how you say it, jumping a hurdle from the July 1977 issue of American Kennel Club's Gazette. It was found and chosen by his girlfriend a day before the label's deadline for the art.
Pretty crazy.
And this album falls in the genres of alternative rock, neo-psychedelia, and sampledelia. We've covered alternative rock before. Neo-psychedelia is literally just a newer version of psychedelic music from the 60s and 70s. That's it. And finally, sampledelia is like psychedelia, but this feeling is achieved through the extensive use of samples, which are often chopped, warped, and stretched to make them feel more psychedelic. That kind of harkens back to Boards of Canada. Their album was similarly rooted in this kind of style. You've heard this one cover by Beck from Eternal Sunshine. What were your expectations going into this album? And did you have a score in mind before you were listening to it?
I knew that what he does changes a lot because of how experimental he is as an artist. So I knew that it probably was going to be something that I wasn't going to expect. But I did think it might be a little bit closer than what I actually found. But I definitely like came into this not really knowing what to expect and what my scores would be. I will say my scores did end up kind of staying in one range much more than I thought that they would.
I will tell you what that number is later because I have it written down.
Yep.
Odelay received critical acclaim upon its release, with Rolling Stone, The Village Voice, and NME calling it the best album of the year. Rolling Stone ranked it as the 9th best album of the 90s and number 424 on the 500 greatest albums of all time. It peaked at number 16 on the Billboard 200 and is certified 2 times platinum in the US. And it also won the Grammy for Best Alternative Music Album. Like I said before, this is a new album for me. I've never listened to it. I have only listened to Beck's 2017 album Colors. I don't really know why, but that was around the time when I was paying attention to music, and I was like, I don't know, Beck was at the Grammys. Might as well listen. However, upon listening to this album, I did recognize 2 songs from it, Hot Wax and Where It's At. All songs are produced by Beck and the Dust Brothers, except for 2, but we'll get there. The album is mixed by Beck, the Dust Brothers, Mario Caldato Jr., Brian Paulson, Tom Rothrock, and Rob Schnapf. And it's mastered by Bob Ludwig, who is a connection to Madonna and Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, that's fun.
Yes, we're racking up these mastering people as the connections.
Well, I can also see the connection because, and I will get into this more, but because of like the style, I can see it in some ways.
I think your favorite song on here will be Devil's Haircut, and your least favorite will either be Novocaine or High Five, Rock the Catskills, and you will give this album a 3.5.
Let's get into it.
Starting with track number 1, Devil's Haircut. Written by Beck, the Dust Brothers, James Brown, Phil Coulter, and Tommy Scott. Now, we got a lot of samples on this album. This song samples Carmen by the Ramsey Lewis Trio, Climax 1 by Z, I Can Only Give You Everything, and Out of Sight by Them, Soul Drums by Bernard Purdy, and Spanish Bull by Eddie Harris. And James Brown is weirdly a connection. He's a connection from the sample because he was also sampled on Watch the Throne. So that's kind of a weird little connection for you. He's been sampled a lot throughout his, well, I guess posthumously because he's dead now.
Rest in peace.
This was the second single from the album. It was released either November 4th or December 11th, 1996, depending on where you look. And it peaked at number 94 on the Hot 100 and number 22 on the UK singles chart, so much bigger in the UK. I'm not sure how much thought we gave this pairing, but I have to say, this song kind of fits the vibe of this film. I feel like this actually worked better than I was expecting. I was expecting these to not go together at all, knowing what Beck's music was like. And I was like, actually, there's a little bit of like country vibe to it that kind of fits the like feeling of the movie in certain parts.
Well, and I will say what I was alluding to before, where I said I can see like one of the people working on this also worked on, you know, for instance, a Madonna album or on a Bruce Springsteen album, is because this sounds, it sounds reminiscent of like a 70s album or a 70s song to me. And I feel like that's why I was saying, oh, I can kind of see that. And I think that's another point to it being a good pairing, or at least when it comes to this song being a good pairing with Midnight Cowboy, because we will talk about how it kind of kicked off a lot of stuff that went on in the 70s. This was also much more experimental. Like, I knew it was going to be experimental, but within each song, there was so much experimenting going on that I did not expect.
A lot of samples.
Yeah, a lot of samples, a lot of stuff going on. I will say, I do think that, to me, this is more interesting than it is enjoyable, which might hint at how things go. But I guess I'll throw my score out there. This is a 3. I will say it's not my favorite song, though.
I didn't really know what to do for your favorite song because I ended up picking 5 different songs. And then I was like, I don't know. This one's hard. This one's one of the better ones, which is what I wrote down. And I also said, I don't and won't have much to say about this album overall because while it is sample based and there's technically a lot going on, it does not really capture my attention much.
Yeah.
I gave the song a 3. I do think it's pretty good, but it's like, I don't know. Overall, the album is kind of...
Which I do agree with.
We'll see.
We'll get into it.
I was kind of thinking you would say that, but I wasn't totally sure. I was hoping you would.
Yeah, I do.
Well, actually, I should say I was hoping you wouldn't feel that way because I want you to enjoy it more than me. But at the same time, the fact that we're both feeling this, I feel like is
validating.
It's nice in a way. Yeah, exactly. Validating.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm completely on the same page with you.
Track number 2, Hot Wax, all one word. Written by Beck and the Dust Brothers. Now, this song samples 14 songs. I'm sorry I'm not reading them all, but we do have 2 connections here. Black Sabbath is a sample. That was an episode we did, obviously. And The Main Ingredient was also a sample, and that band was sampled by the Notorious B.I.G. So that's kind of an interesting little connection for you. I got to tell you, I am a broken record. I have bubblegum in my brain. That is what he says in Spanish in the chorus. So do with that what you will. And then I also have jaundiced honchos getting busy with me. And then immediately launching into Jingle Bells is definitely a choice.
Yep.
The song is kind of an all-around mess, but it is endearing. I will give it that.
I also have to shout out the line "driving my pig."
Yeah, there's a lot of weird things going on in this song.
Yeah.
And shout out to Ross Harris. He played the part of the wizard and the child. That is the spoken word outro. So, yeah, shout out, I guess. This song is a 2.5. This was one of the ones I recognized before, and I was kind of like, yep, this is what I thought Beck was.
Yeah, I mean, I like for a lot of these, I did enjoy the vibe of it. Like, I didn't dislike the vibes. And I will say the guitar work does feel kind of Beatlesque, which does work.
Yeah, there's good guitar playing on here.
Even by the second song, I was already like, okay, the indie effect is here, and it's very strongly here, which is kind of crazy considering how much experimenting there is. But I feel like because every song has so much experimentation in it, it all starts to kind of blend for me. And I will say with this song, the production did kind of start to annoy me because it does kind of feel like a mix of so many different styles that it doesn't feel like anything at some point.
I get that.
I still gave it a 3. That is partially the indie effect, but it's partially because, like, yeah, the vibe is still there, even if I'm not really that interested at this point. So, yeah, that's kind of all I have to say. I do not have much to say about most of these.
Yeah, it's a weird album.
It's
and
hard
I don't
to talk
really know
about,
how to talk
honestly.
about it. Yeah. I mean, we've said that a few times, but I feel like this is a different level of hard to talk about because it's like there's so much going on, but I don't really want to talk about any of it because it's just kind of like there.
If we had to pick one album to say that about, I feel like it would have to be this one.
I feel like more than, well, I don't know, maybe Boards of Canada.
That is
point.
like, that's a good point.
You know, it's ambient and it's got a bunch of shit going on. This is kind of like at least a little bit more like typical song structures.
But yeah, no, I get what you mean. I kind of forgot about the Boards of Canada. So
yeah, you blocked it out of your mind. That's okay. I understand.
I remember that I didn't really like it. I just think that I didn't remember like how far that went.
I mean, we have a different IDM album that we're going to do later this season. So I'm looking forward to that because I think I'm really going to like it, and I do not think you will. So
yeah, I think I am much more on the EDM side versus the IDM side. So
yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll get there when we get there. That's a ways away. Because first we have to talk about Lord Only Knows, track number 3. This one was written by Beck. This song samples Look Out for Lucy by Mike Milius and When It Comes by Edgar Winter Group. You said something on the last song. I said this is what the part where the Kesha Effect set in for the rest of the album.
Yeah.
Yep. I am not a fan of his vocals on this song or really anything about this song. This is a 1.5.
I feel like when it comes to this specific song, it feels kind of country forward to me.
Very much. There's a few like that.
Ironically, I feel like there's less going on in this song compared to the first two, which is what I thought I wanted. But it also kind of just makes it feel quite boring to me, to be honest. Yeah. It's very, it's a 3. I will say, if I listen to some of these individually, they might go down. But because I was listening to them one after one, and they all just became one uncohesive whole to me. They were all around the same spot. So I'm sorry to all the Beck fans.
That's all right. Track number 4, The New Pollution, written by Beck and the Dust Brothers. It samples Venus by Joe Thomas and Hallelujah All Right Amen by Gus Poole. It was released in February 1997 as the third single from the album. It peaked at number 78 on the Hot 100 and number 9 on the Icelandic Top 40. So shout out to Iceland.
Hell yeah.
On the song's Wikipedia page, it also says that it has been performed live 374 times as of 2019. That's a fun fact for you, and you can decide what you want to do with that information.
That is absolutely wild.
Now, this song is a song about being a teenager. That's cool in theory, but unfortunately falls flat for me. This is something that you previously said pretty much on the last song. We're kind of just trading off what we say. I said, I feel like there's a lot of stuff happening in most of these songs, but they just don't really work for me. To me, this is one of the most samey albums that we've done on the podcast.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just super Kesha Effect where it's like I don't know, I guess we could say indie effect, but to me, this is an indie effect. This is like indie's a little bit more melodic. This is kind of just like...
That is true.
It's just like there.
It feels like the Kesha Effect in overdrive to me.
Absolutely.
I don't really have anything to add. I will say it almost doesn't feel like a song to me.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
In some ways, which I still give it a 3. I'm thinking, honestly, maybe I should give it a 2.5 because of that. As I was saying, though, I was in the Kesha Effect very strong at this point. Like, I could not differentiate these songs.
I'm kind of surprised that this is a 3 because I felt like a lot of these songs were more 2.5s for you. Because I'm like 2 and 1.5.
Yeah, because it is very negative. This song I am putting down to 2.5 just because I had nothing else to say aside from that.
Yeah.
I'll see. Like I said, these could definitely fluctuate down if I listen to them independently of each other. I feel like this is a situation where the Kesha Effect was actually helping the album.
I can definitely see that, yeah.
So that's all I have.
Nice.
For this song.
Track number 5, Derelict, written by Beck and the Dust Brothers. It samples I Just Want to Celebrate by Rare Earth. Now, following your lead from the last song, I wrote one thing about this song. This is very boring and formless, and I do not like it. This is a 1.5 and is my least favorite song.
It does feel very one note to me. I do like the drum work. That's a positive. It's still just very boring to me, though. I'm sorry. It's a 3. If I listen to this and like The New Pollution, I do think I would prefer this song. So I'm gonna keep it at a 3, but it's kind of just like the same.
Yeah, very much. This isn't even an album where I feel like compelled to say you should go listen to it if you haven't listened to it. It's just like, yeah, I don't know. If you were alive in the 90s and heard it, you kind of know what it's like. All of the songs are kind of the same. Like if you heard any of the singles from it, it's like, yep, that's that album. Track number 6, Novocaine, written by Beck and the Dust Brothers. It samples Caught You Lying Again by Joe Thomas, Don't Want No Woman by Lee Michaels, Funky Man by Kool and the Gang, I Just Want to Celebrate by Rare Earth, and Poème non épique number 3 by Catherine Ribeiro plus Alpes or Alps. I don't know. So yeah, shout out to that.
Hell yeah.
I think this is one of the better songs on here. I'm not sure why this one works better than a lot of the other songs with more typical structures that I tend to gravitate towards, but this one just feels both more rock and more hip hop at the same time, and it kind of just works better for me. However, that ending is fucked up and I kind of hate it. I did give this song a 2.5 though.
I mean, I don't have anything else to add. I will say the Kesha Effect is here, and I do wish that it wasn't. This is a 3. We're just staying there.
I was a little high on my prediction of 3.5. Damn.
A little bit. I honestly am a little surprised by that prediction.
I thought you were going to like this a lot more because I also assumed that you had heard more than one song by Beck before and you kind of knew what his vibe was because you were like, I want to do Beck next season. So I was like, oh, okay, then you must like him because I don't really.
Yeah, I had no idea what I was getting into, to be honest. So,
okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. Track number 7, Jackass. Written by Beck, Bob Dylan, and the Dust Brothers.
That's so
It samples It's All Over Now, Baby Blue by them, and Let a Woman Be a Woman, Let a Man Be a Man by a word in the Blazers. I'm not going to say that word. It is technically this guy's nickname, but it is another word where it's like, I think this is going to be a slur, and it might already be a slur, so I'm not saying it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Probably.
Different slur, though. The 5th and final single from the album, it was released August 26th, 1997, and it peaked at number 73 on the Hot 100. Now, I got to tell you, this song is kind of a vibe. I'm sorry, but I have nothing else to say. This one is actually my favorite, though. I gave this a 3. I feel like there's a little bit more melody to it, and it's just, there's something happening. And I like when it started, I was like, okay, this is different. And I like that.
I do agree that I feel like this song is a tiny bit better than the other songs. It feels more focused to me, and I think that's why it works a little different or a little better.
For sure.
It's also still a 3 for me. It is a higher 3 than the other 3s, but it's still there. My favorite song does have a different score. I'll put that out there.
I do want to say that I'm going to predict it to be Ramshackle now because it is the song that like breaks the Kesha Effect in like because it's just different. It actually is different.
Yeah.
So I'll throw that in there.
We'll see.
Track number 8, Where It's At, written by Beck and the Dust Brothers. This samples 10 songs, most notably sides 1 and 2 of Sex for Teens, in parentheses, Where It's At, by Stanley Z. Daniels, MD, from 1969. This is like I don't even know how to describe it. It's a like self-help record, I guess, about like sexual health for teenagers, geared towards teenagers. And I don't know why it's Where It's At, but that's where a lot of these like vocal samples come from.
That sounds exactly like the nerdy thing that a teenage David would listen to learn about sex.
I'll let you just have that sentence all to yourself. No reaction. This was the lead single of the album, released a few weeks before the album on May 28th, 1996. It peaked at number 61 on the Hot 100 and number 35 on the UK singles chart. The song also won the Grammy for Best Male Rock Vocal Performance, which no longer exists. So shout out to Beck, Trailblazer. This was the other song I had heard before the album. And I said, I never knew this song was by Beck, which is weird because it feels very much like a Beck song and it feels like it's meant to be on this album.
Yeah.
But I have heard the radio edit of this song, which shortens it by like 2 minutes quite a few times on Adult Hits radio before. I think it's a fine song, but it does get long after like 2.5 minutes. It is a 2.5, but I can see why this is the lead single because I think there's more here than a lot of these other songs.
I, again, don't have really anything to add. I liked the keyboard.
Ooh.
And that's kind of it.
Nice.
Again, very It's a 3. Staying in the zone.
Very solid. Track number 9, Minus, written by Beck, produced by Beck, Brian Paulson, and Mario Caldado Jr. This song does nothing for me, and it's very forgettable. That means it's a 2.
Yeah, I have one thing to say, and that is that this song was very annoying to me. It was like especially annoying to me compared to those songs. In particular, I feel like because of the vocals. And I guess it wasn't that long, but it just felt very long to me because it's annoying.
Yeah, it is not very long, and it does feel bad to listen to, unfortunately.
So this is a 2.5.
That is another reverse track 9 theory. It's not my least favorite, but it is like pretty bad, and it's in the lower tier of the album.
That is a good point.
Starting off season 2 with 2 reverse track 9 theories. Very interesting.
Maybe that will become like the staple reverse or the staple track 9 theory, like switching with.
True. It could be.
You know, like it'll take that place.
Maybe I'll claim track 9 on Harry Styles' new album.
Yeah.
I'll let you know how that goes. Actually, I'm going to do that right now. As long as it's over 10 songs long, I'm claiming track 9. Speaking of 10 songs, this is track number 10, Sissy Neck, which I'm never saying again, written by Adam Taylor, Beck, the Dust Brothers, and Harold Paris. It samples A Part of Me by Country Funk, The Moog, or Moog, depending on how you say it, and Me, by Dick Hyman, terrible name, and 2 songs by Sly and the Family Stone, Life and Love City. It was released June 17th, 1997 as the 4th single. It peaked at number 30 on the UK singles chart. I feel like this is kind of a vibe. It's very weird. It's very funky. It's very country. And it kind of fits the feeling of being on the bus in Texas in the movie.
Yeah.
Also, I would like to pre-apologize for when I get canceled in 10 years for saying that word, because it is probably not a word I should be saying or anyone should be saying. But Beck has not changed the song title and he has not apologized for it yet. So I'm going to pre-apologize for both of us. This is a 2.5, however.
Around this time is when I started to realize that, you know what, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe Beck isn't for me. No, but seriously, around this time, I was like, yeah, no, I reached the realization that it was definitely not for me. But even if it was, I feel like it is so one note that I feel like even if I was a big fan of Beck's, I would kind of be like, it's all the same. So I don't know. I'm kind of confused with like how well received this was. I am giving it a 3 because again, I don't think it's like really worse than a lot of the other songs. It just kind of there, and I was just bored.
Track number 11, Ready Made, also one word, written by Beck and the Dust Brothers. It samples Admit It by Rory Gallagher and Desafinado by Lorindo Almeida and the Bossa Nova All-Stars. This is a rare explanation of a Beck song by the man himself. I wrote a song in 1996 called Ready Made that has to do with being a sentient being in a business that requires you to be a machine that is sensitized and human to an extreme, yet is capable of dispensing energy and emotion on demand. When you're meeting 80 people a day and swimming in a fast-moving river of faces and conversations, then playing for an audience every night and living on a schedule that tells you where you're going to be in 6 months to the hour, part of you wants to just surrender and go through the motions. I still try to make connections and feel related to where I am, but it's a struggle. Sadly, this song does not come together for me. This is a 2.
I have one thing to say about this song, and this is literally the only thing I wrote down. Okay, I guess. It's 3.
That's how I've gotten there on a few albums. This is very much a Prince reaction for you for this album. For me, like my Prince reaction, you know, where I was just like, okay, I'm sick of this. Get it over with.
No, I was very much at that point. So
I did listen to this multiple times as well. So I was kind of like,
oh, I could not do that.
Sadly. That's what I do for the podcast. Those are the things I put myself through. So next time we're thinking of an album, remember, I'm listening to this multiple times to write about it. So just wait for our bad episode this season. Oh my God. Track number 12, High Five, Rock the Catskills, written by Beck, the Dust Brothers, and Vincent Willis. It samples Baya by Walter Wanderley, First Movement Allegro Moderato by Franz Schubert, Inside Looking Out by Grand Funk Railroad, Mr. Cool by Rasputin Stash, and The Battle of the Cold Crush Brothers versus the Fantastic Five MCs Part 2 by DJ Grand Wizard Theodore and the Fantastic Five.
What the actual hell? That's crazy.
Genuinely. Franz Schubert in here, for anybody paying attention. I said this was going to be your least favorite song, and I wrote one thing about this song. It feels like you're on Benadryl. This is a 2.
I mean, yeah, this song was wild. I literally wrote down what the hell is going on. And it's definitely the craziest in the whole album. It's a 2.5. I didn't really differentiate like a least favorite song. I will say I could see this going down to like a 2 in the future though. So this might be.
Let's make it your least favorite.
Yeah, we'll make it my least favorite.
Let's go.
I'm going to give you this win.
Hell yeah.
And that's all I have to say.
I'm pretty sure I can tell what your favorite song is going to be.
Probably.
And that's track number 13. Ramshackle, written by Beck, produced by Tom Rothrock and Rob Schnapf. A complete change of pace for the final song of the album, and it kind of works, especially after something as strange as High Five. Not super memorable to me outside of the fact that it's different from the rest of the album, but I think it is a nice way to close out the album. And now I want to tell you one thing real quick. I gave this a 2.5. Computer Rock, which is a bonus track on this album, is not actually a song.
Right.
It was a hidden track on the real like standard edition of the album, the CD, the vinyl, when it came out, and it was a hidden track after like 2 or 3 minutes of silence after Ramshackle. And then there was this sound. And they used to do this back in the day on albums. I think it's pretty cool. It's quite fun. But I do appreciate, once again, like they did, like System of a Down did. They put this as a separate song, so we don't have to listen to minutes of silence after Ramshackle to get to this fun little bonus thing.
I do agree.
So yeah, this is a 2.5. Is this your favorite song?
This is my favorite song. I think in large part because it's different. It makes so much sense now after learning that this is like one of the few songs that survived.
The only one that survived.
True. It is a much slower song, but I do think I prefer his like slower, calm stuff, considering that the cover he did for Eternal Sunshine is like a very slow, sad song. And I do like that cover. So I also can see why I will like it regardless of the fact that it's different to the rest of the album. I will say, I think it's definitely a lot more interesting. But even then, after a while, it does start to get a little bit boring for me.
I agree.
It's a 3.5 just because I think it was different and I was so tired of like the everything else that I was like, oh my God. Yeah, this is definitely my favorite. And did he score Computer Rock?
Oh, hell no. I that's not a score. Did you score it?
I did. I knew that it's not a song. But it's a 2.5.
Okay.
Probably should have been like a 2. I was just like, you know what? This is not a song. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I don't score the songs that aren't songs. And this is just sounds, you know?
Yes, literally. And it's like 20 seconds or something.
Yeah. So. Shout out Computer Rock ending out the album. I think that is a fun way to end the album. I'll give them that.
I think it is a fun way. Yeah.
Especially if you're rewarded listening to it on a vinyl or on a CD and the song keeps going and then you're waiting for it and it's just this fucking shit at the end of the album. It's like, okay, that's pretty good. I appreciate that.
It really does feel like Beck is just messing with you.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, what did you think about this album overall?
I'm kind of just going to rehash what I said before. This is definitely not for me. In some ways, I do kind of feel similarly to, you know, Prince and some of the other artists that we listen to where I don't think it's for me. And I think a lot of this, even if it were for me, would maybe go on too long or feel much too repetitive. But I can still see like the artistry here. Beck is like clearly talented and he clearly has a vision. I think I am ultimately just not really interested in this specific style. I think it honestly just comes down to the fact that this is not what I want from music. And that's okay because people can have different things. I want to relax more to music. I want to like, you know, I want the vibe. I want the melody, the rhythm. Like, it's just a different way of presenting music that I'm just not interested in. And that's fine. And if you are interested in this, awesome. Because I can definitely see people being very into this, and I think that's great. That is why ultimately my score is a 2.5.
Oh, wow.
I gave it a 2.5 because I was like, yeah, no, I would never listen to this again, to be honest. The Kesha Effect got me really, really bad with this. I think this is maybe aside from the Boards of Canada, this is the worst that the Kesha Effect has ever gotten to me. So that is why I'm giving this album ultimately a 2.5, which is quite low for me considering all the other scores I've given. Yeah, a full point under what you thought I was going to give it. And now I'm very intrigued to hear what you're going to say.
Well, I do want to ask you one other follow-up. Is this Prince Effect or is this Childish Gambino Effect? Prince Effect is like you recognize the talent and it's not for you. Childish Gambino Effect is like you wish you liked it more because you recognize the talent, but it's not for you. To me, this is Prince Effect.
I think it's Prince Effect for me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me it is Prince Effect because I ultimately didn't like whenever I was listening to any of the songs, I didn't think, oh, if this was just changed, I would like it more or anything like that. It was fully just like, okay, I
agree.
Not interested. And I didn't feel like I needed to be more interested.
I mean, I agree. I said that this is a very consistent album. However, that consistency leads to the Kesha Effect. It's quirky, sort of, and I enjoy that, but I still feel like it never really went anywhere outside of just being quirky.
I agree with that.
And I hate to say it, but I'm not sure that this is one of the 500 best albums ever. Do you think it is?
I don't think it is, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I could see how this was revolutionary at its time. I, like you, gave this album a 2.5.
Nice.
You know, we've talked about effects. I feel like we were kind of maxed out on the different types of effects that music can give us.
Yeah.
But I do have something new for you.
Ooh.
And I'm going to give out an award to this right away. And that award is, this is why I say I don't like 90s music, unfortunately.
Nice.
So I pretty much know the answer to this, but I have to ask it anyway. Will you add any of these songs to playlists and you will not return to this ever again?
Nope.
You're not even adding Ramshackle to a playlist?
No, I mean, it was more interesting, but even then, you know, like I said, I felt like it got boring after a while, and
that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just not interested in it. I'm also assuming that you're not adding anything to any of your playlists or coming back.
Correct. Yes. One time was enough. Well, yeah, one time was enough, and I listened to it more. So I very much had my fill of this album. And I want to ask you, do you consider yourself a fan of Beck now?
Not really. The thing is, I don't like dislike his music. I don't hate his music.
Yeah.
I think it's just not for me, so I kind of get a little bored. And I will say, I still am a fan of his cover, but I think it's just like, it's not a style of music that I'm interested in at all.
That's fair.
So
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't consider myself a fan of Prince either, because it's like, I don't like this. Like, he's talented. I think Beck is talented too. It's just like, that's not really anything that I want to hear again. I will say, however, the 2017 album by Beck that I listened to had a few more songs that were more interesting. And
I'm intrigued.
Almost quirkier in a more like pop way, where it's like, it's a little bit more accessible.
I feel like I might like that more than, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe if we ever work up the courage to do another Beck album, we'll do that one in the future. But
maybe in a couple of years for me to like get my resources back.
To process it, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
It's time for a movie. And it's time for a new movie that neither one of us have seen before.
That's right.
David, take it away.
And a movie that's depressing as hell, because we are talking about Midnight Cowboy. And I am predicting that your score will be, man, I honestly don't know. I could see this going like two ways.
What are the two ways?
I'm going to...
You can give me both scores. Talk it out. Talk out your process.
It doesn't I could see one of them being it doesn't click for you because of like the way the story moves. Kind of a like some similar... I could see like your reaction being similar to something like...
I'm not going to tell you the two movies that I have referenced in here.
The Godfather, like the story, the storytelling. I don't know. On the other end, I could see this working quite well for you because of it being similar to something like Ordinary People. I don't think your score would be as high as that or like above a 4. But I don't know. I'm kind of stuck. I think ultimately I'm going to say that you will give it a 3.5, even though I don't feel good about...
You did not mention either of the movies that I thought of. So this will be very interesting. But don't think about it too hard.
Was one of them Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid?
I did think about that, but that wasn't one of the ones I wrote down. So
we'll see.
But we got a lot to talk about.
We will get there, I guess. Let's start with the IMDb logline. A naive hustler travels from Texas to New York City to seek personal fortune, finding a new friend in the process.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. I don't really care about that.
It's okay. I feel like it makes it sound much more like a fun buddy film than what it actually is.
It also is like way less personal than I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of log lines usually are. Like maybe that's just because it's old, but I don't know. I feel like that's not very good, sadly. I mean, it does kind of like tell you what happens in the movie, but at the same time, does it?
Yeah, no, I feel like it's just very, very fine, to be honest, as a log line. Yeah. Also, as usual, I am doing my new thing where I'm saying the genre. And according to Wikipedia, the genre of this film is drama. And that's it.
That's it.
That's it. It's just drama.
That's what I have written down in our spreadsheet as well. This is a drama film.
Yep. Honestly, I was surprised when I saw that, but hey, it is what it is. Now, the movie is directed by John Schlesinger, who we will talk about quite a bit. It's produced by Jerome Hellman. It's written by Waldo Salt, which I like that name. It's based off the novel of the same name by James Leo Hurley, and the cinematography is by Adam Hollander. I need to find like a new word that I can't pronounce, by the way. Anyways.
We'll get there.
That's true.
It might be the intro of this podcast.
Yeah, honestly, probably. Because it's already starting.
We did 3 takes of it today, but you'll only hear 1. Don't worry. But now you know.
Now you guys know.
That's why I wrote a script. I got to tell you, it changes everything.
I gotta write a script. I gotta write a script for everything. I feel like that's why doing the opening of every movie is so easy because I have a script.
Yeah, and
like
once we get to the questions,
script.
it's like, oh my god, we have to think now.
Exactly. We have to use our brains. Who would have thought? Anyways, the film is edited. I guess that's my word.
Ooh.
It's edited by Hugh A. Robertson, and the music is composed by John Barry, who, let me just say, I love his work across multiple movies. We will be talking about him in the future for sure. And the movie is distributed. Distributed. That's I the moment I said that I need to find a new word, every word started to mess me up. It's distributed by United Artists, and it's rated. Oh, I forgot. That's the new thing I'm going to do. I'm going to add the rating too.
Nice.
And I'm starting with this movie because obviously the rating is a big point of discussion. But this movie is rated X and then R.
Oh.
And we will talk about that.
Okay.
Yes. And the movie stars Jon Voight and Dustin Hoffman. Ironically, that's a connection to Megalopolis, where both of these actors appear in.
I forgot Jon Voight is in Megalopolis. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
You forgot about want to take a look at my wiener or whatever he says?
That was him? He's the boner guy?
That was him.
I did not.
He's the boner
I don't
guy.
think I ever
That's
put
Jon
that
Voight.
together in my head. I only know Jon Voight is like an insane Republican now.
Yeah. Ironically, he went from being like a staunch Democrat in the 60s to being like a Republican. Also, I don't know if you knew this, but Angelina Jolie is his daughter.
No, I did not know that. That's what the hell?
Crazy.
Okay, that's messed up. This is like breaking my brain right now.
Kind of like how this movie breaks your heart. Anyway, let's get into it. Schlesinger first came across a screenplay adaptation of the novel while working on another film of his. I am not sure if it, if like Waldo Salt had written it, if someone else had written it. I could not find a lot of information when it came to the pre-production of this film. But in any case, he came across a script and he set up the film at United Artists. And they were quite nervous about the subject matter, as most people would probably guess they would be. So because of that, he took a salary cut in exchange for a cut of the profit in order to make the film. And with that, we are actually into casting already because, as I said, there's very little to talk about in pre-production. Now, Jon Voight really wanted the part. And he agreed to work for scale in order to be in the film, which, for those of you that don't know, if you are in the SAG-AFTRA union as an actor, there's a minimum that they have to pay you. And sometimes a big actor will agree to be paid that minimum to be in a film they really want to, even if typically they make like $10 million. So that's kind of what he did here. Now, I'm not exactly sure how big he was at this point, but I think he was already known as an actor. So it seems like he did take some sort of cut. I will say Harrison Ford also auditioned.
Oh, interesting.
Which I'm sorry, but I do not see him.
Even though he's more of like a real life cowboy than Jon Voight, I think. Well, actually, I don't really know much about Jon Voight, apparently.
Well, we will actually talk about how he is not really a cowboy.
Okay, good. I read it correctly then.
Yes, we will mention that. Now, we do have to talk about Hoffman because his, process of going through casting is kind of directly involved with The Graduate, which we talked about obviously last year or last season. Coming off that movie, it obviously shot him up as an actor. It made him famous, but he was very scared that he would be typecast because of The Graduate as this kind of, all-American guy. So he wanted to pursue this film. He kind of knew, though, that like if he just walked up and said like, oh, I want to audition it as myself, as Dustin Hoffman, that they would have a hard time buying him as a Rizzo because they would have the image of him from The Graduate in their brains. And they would be like, oh, you can't play him. You're not right for it. So he asked the film executive that would be auditioning him to meet him on a street corner in Manhattan. So the executive arrived. They started to wait for Hoffman. They were looking around, maybe is he running late? Where is he? Without even noticing a beggar that was standing 5 feet away from him that was like costing people for spare change until the beggar walked up and was like, hi, I'm Dustin Hoffman. Wow, and that's how he got the role. Yeah, he went all out, which is what Dustin Hoffman does. Ironically, Mike Nichols actually tried to stop Hoffman from taking the part. He said, quote, "Are you crazy? I made you a star. This is an ugly character. It's a supporting part to Jon Voight. What are you doing? Why are you sabotaging?" End quote. But Hoffman was like, no, I want to do it. I want to be a character actor versus a star, which kudos to him. And now to your point, ironically, Hoffman, who plays like a very New York type of character, is originally from Los Angeles, while Jon Voight, who plays a very Texan character or a very cowboy character, is actually the New Yorker.
Wow.
So Jon Voight is from New York.
They both did a good job, I feel like.
Yeah, they both sold it. I honestly feel like this is the best casting you could get for these characters, in my opinion. I think they're both perfect. I do have quite a lot of notes about production because there's a lot to talk about, including one very famous kind of ad-libbed moment that we referenced in the opening of this podcast. They shot in Texas and in New York, and they almost shot in actual tenements, but they had some issues because the rooms were very cramped. They were about to be demolished. There were real squatters and junkies who actually lived there, and there were rats. So ultimately, they just stripped out the walls of the tenements and just used them on a soundstage to recreate the tenements. Because they're like, it's going to be demolished anyways, which, very smart. Jon Voight also had to work on his Texas accent a lot. He used a tape recorder because obviously he did not have a Texas accent. And Schlesinger actually said, quote, "Jon Voight took a tape recorder with him when we first went down to Big Spring, Texas for some pre-production planning, and he recorded the voices of Texans whom he interviewed for bit parts in the picture. Then he drove us all mad by playing back the tapes incessantly on the way back to New York, but he did get his Texas drawl down perfectly in the bargain," end quote. Which I would have thought he was from Texas, honestly, after hearing that voice. Now, let's talk about Hoffman a little bit. If you know Dustin Hoffman, you know that he goes all out for all of his roles, and that included this movie. So here's just a few things he did. He kept pebbles in his shoe to ensure his limp was consistent. He put so much effort into the coughing fits that he actually vomited one time.
Oh.
He also spent time in New York slums observing tramps and street people. And they even made special teeth. It was like a dental plate in order to make his teeth all rotten for the film. Regardless, teenage fans of his from The Graduate would still like yell and cheer when they saw Hoffman like filming in the streets in that getup with like the rotted teeth and dirt on his face and all that.
Damn.
Which is ironic. And according to him, I will say, this is according to Hoffman, and I don't know how verified this is by like a lot of other people, but according to him, in the scene where he is almost run over by a taxi, they did not have a permit. So they were filming with a hidden camera. And that was an actual taxi that almost ran him over. And this prompted him to have a reaction of yelling out, "Hey, we're shooting here." But, you know, him being the professional that he is, he turned that into, "Hey, I'm walking here." So that, according to Hoffman, was totally improvised. And Jon Voight has also corroborated this. The reason why I'm kind of putting an emphasis on, oh, he says this happened, is because I've heard other people say that it was actually not really that improv. I'm just throwing out what Hoffman said. Of course, though, any movie production would not be complete without some, let's say, problematic things happening on set.
It's allegation time.
It's time to talk about this.
We're going into the Harvey Weinstein corner of allegation time.
Let me put it like this. It's time to talk about sex scenes.
Yeah.
Because Schlesinger wanted nudity. Nudity that the actors didn't always know was going to happen.
Oh.
Before. Yes. Sylvia Mills, who plays Cass, who was the first, woman that you see Joe like offering his services to, the one that doesn't pay him, that starts crying when he asks for money, has said that her nudity was not in the script, but Schlesinger kept on pushing for it until she relented. He also reportedly insisted that Brenda Vaccaro, who plays Shirley, who is, the person he meets at the party, also be nude, even though that also wasn't in the script. And he kept on insisting until she started to cry. Thankfully, costume designer Ann Roth arrived on the appointed day with the fur coat that you see her wearing in the film. And because of that offered her like something to wear at least. And Schlesinger was delighted with that. But yeah. As for Jennifer Salt, who plays Annie, who you see in the flashback, she originally was not going to be nude. They had given her a nude colored bodysuit to wear, but it got so hot during the night that she eventually took it off. And as she has said, quote, "I felt that the most horrible thing in the world was that people were seeing my bare ass, and that was so humiliating I could not even discuss it. And this kid was just on top of me and all over me, and it hurt, and no one gave a fuck, and it was supposed to look like I was being raped. And I was screaming, and it was traumatic in some ways that couldn't be acknowledged. It would be acknowledged now, but it wasn't acknowledged then, so I buried my being upset," end quote. This is exactly why intimacy coordinators exist nowadays.
Correct. Yes.
This is crazy. And it's wild that so many people just stood by and kind of let this happen.
It's a different time.
A different time, and also, honestly, that's a big part of Hollywood, too.
Yes.
People just standing by and not doing anything.
To this day.
I will say, to this day, it exists and it will exist into the future. An aide to Schlesinger has also said that he wanted to include a sex scene between Voight and Hoffman, but was overruled, which we will discuss the homosexual undertones in the film later too. I have one last thing to talk about when it came to production, and that is when they reached the end of filming in Texas. I'm not sure if it was overall filming or just the part in Texas, but I believe it was overall filming. Voight noticed that Schlesinger wasn't looking too good, to the point that he got worried that he was having a heart attack. And he related the following conversation, starting with Schlesinger saying, quote, "What have we done? What will they think of us? After all, we made a movie about a dishwasher who lives in New York and fucks a lot of women," end quote. Sorry. Voight would say that pretty much what he was feeling was, quote, all of a sudden he saw it as banal and vulgar. He's having an anxiety attack, and I grabbed his shoulders to shake him out of it. I said, "John, we will live the rest of our artistic lives in the shadow of this great masterpiece." He said, "You think so?" I said, "I'm absolutely sure of it. The only reason I said such an extravagant thing was because I wanted to help him get out of it, and nothing would take him out of it but that. But the statement turned out to be true," end quote. So he's pretty much like, oh no, it'll be fine. I'm sure everyone will love it. And then he got lucky and everyone did love it. Because, well, before I get to the reviews, let me talk about the rating. Because when the film went to MPAA, it received the official kiss of death, aka the X rating, which we kind of talked about a little bit before, but the X rating is pretty much what the NC-17 rating is now. The thing is, in the 60s or 50s, pornography started to use the X rating. So because of that, the general perception of the X rating with time kind of coalesced into meaning, oh, anything that's X rated is porn. So because of that, if your movie is rated X, no one wants to be involved with it. Theaters don't want to run it because of the association. Newspapers don't want to screen ads for it. So it becomes very difficult to make a film successful with an X rating. And yet, Midnight Cowboy still became a surprise box office hit. It actually grossed $44 million on a budget of $3 million. I think that might include like rent, POV, that kind of stuff, but still, it did very, very well.
If I'm understanding this correctly, it went to theaters and had an X rating the entire time?
Yes, in theaters.
Now it has an R rating.
Yes, which we will talk about.
Oh, okay. But interesting.
It's like in spite of its X rating, it became a success. It also received very positive reviews, although it notably did not receive any awards at the 1969 Berlin Film Festival, which resulted in United Artists literally boycotting the festival. They did not send any of their films to the festival for the next 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, they were like, It did receive 6 nominations at the 42nd Academy Award. Those were Best Picture, Director, Actor, 2, one for Voight, one for Hoffman, Supporting Actress for Sylvia Miles, Screenplay based on material from another medium. We're back to the crazy long.
Nice.
Yeah. And Film Editing. And it would win Picture, Director, Screenplay, becoming the first and only, to this day, X-rated film to win in those categories.
Wow.
And pretty much the only forever, considering that now movies have the NC-17 rating instead of the X rating.
I did want to ask you, have there been, I don't know if you know this, have there been other movies that were X-rated that were nominated in any of these categories?
Honestly, probably not.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, I would not think so. I also got to throw out that Schlesinger became the first openly gay director to win an Academy Award. He was kind of an anomaly around this time.
He was openly gay in 1969?
He was openly gay in 1969.
Wow.
I believe he was openly gay in the sense that he didn't go and talk about it in interviews, but like people that knew him knew that he was gay.
That's very cool.
That is very cool. I don't know. It's very interesting talking about, the stuff involving the sex scenes, considering that he is gay, because I think it kind of puts it in this weird limbo. But we can get into that when we discuss the film. Not everyone was happy, because we got to bring back someone that was not happy about another film. Or something involving another film. Can you guess who it is?
Roger Ebert?
No. This person was mad about something involving The Godfather.
I was thinking Ronald Reagan when you said that because he was in Hollywood. No, I don't know.
Someone was mad about what happened at the Academy Awards. No. AKA John Wayne. If you remember, he got mad.
Oh, that was the episode of John Wayne. Yes.
That was the episode. He got mad about this movie too. He told Playboy magazine, quote, "Wouldn't you say that the wonderful love of these two men in Midnight Cowboy, a story about two qualifies as a perverse movie?" End quote. Yep. Sounds about right for John Wayne.
We're just doing all the slurs, covering all of our bases this episode.
Today's just a slur day. Yeah. Regardless of what John Wayne thought, this became the first X-rated film to be shown on primetime TV and to be shown at the White House, specifically by Nixon.
How the hell did this get on TV? Genuinely.
They probably I don't know, maybe they cut some stuff, but
that's
still,
wild.
It's crazy. And in 1971, MPA changes the film's rating to an R. which is not that late after it came out. I was surprised. I thought they would have changed it in like the 90s or something.
Yeah.
But I guess they were like,
whatever. We already killed it.
Yeah.
Like hypothetically,
Yeah, no, literally. Both Jon Voight and Dustin Hoffman's career continued to flourish. Arguably, this film actually helped, unlike what Mike Nichols thought it would do. They both became Oscar winners after this. In Hoffman's case, he got 2. And Schlesinger continued his career with well-received films, stuff like The Marathon Man and Day of the Locust. And he also notably met his longtime partner, photographer Michael Childers, on the set of Midnight Cowboy. Since the 60s, Midnight Cowboy's critical reception has only grown. It's considered to be one of the greatest films of the 60s counterculture wave now. And it is considered to be one of, if not the film that kicked off the new Hollywood era of the 70s. And a lot of people have also noted the film for having gay undertones between the film's 2 main characters. This idea has been somewhat controversial. So a lot of people say that there are no undertones, while some people say that this film is fully just a romance about these 2 characters, which kind of leads me to my first question. And that is, what is your interpretation on this idea that these 2 are a couple? Or do you think that there are gay undertones to the film that are larger than what you see literally on the screen in the film?
I read Letterboxd reviews after watching this because I was like, what do I think about this movie after watching it? It was one of those where I was like, what did I just watch? I kind of want to know more about what other people are saying. So I saw that. And as I was watching, like I saw what people were saying. And as I was watching the movie, I was thinking to myself, I feel like there's something more here that we're not seeing. And I wondered if it was because it's the 60s, and that's not really something that anybody... Well, I mean, even now, people like freak out. We talked about it with Bottoms last week. Like, people are freaking out about having queer people in film.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I thought we were like progressive now, but back then we definitely weren't in 1969. Like this.
Just ask John Wayne.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah. Shout out John Wayne, I guess. Shout out Orange County for naming an airport after him.
Yeah,
that tells you all you need to know about Orange County. Anyway. I thought that this movie was kind of a relationship movie about the 2 of them, about Jon Voight and Dustin Hoffman. But I'm going to take it in a different direction because I felt like this was more of a forbidden love kind of thing. Because to me, I don't know if Ratso, I guess that's what I'm going to call him. Like, I feel like he was a little bit more accepting of who he was. And I don't think Jon Voight was, his character, at least. And I feel like it's a forbidden love, not because they can't be together because there weren't gay people at the time in being in public, but because they couldn't accept who they were, at least one of them.
I agree with that.
I feel like that's kind of why that end scene like hits so hard, because it's like, oh, they never really actually got to live out their fantasy, their life together in Florida. Even if they never accepted it, I feel like it still like hurts even more because it's like now there's no possibility of it ever happening.
I agree with that. And I think thinking back to the fact that Schlesinger, for instance, wanted to add in a sex scene between them, I am happy he didn't, because my interpretation for this film was that they have an emotional relationship, but it kind of could never, at least for the time period of their lives that we see in the film, it couldn't go beyond that because Joe is maybe scared or unwilling or just doesn't know how to like come to terms with those feelings. That's kind of the way that I interpreted it when I was watching the film. I also think though that like, I feel like there are some films where they are so well done. There are multiple interpretations to it that are all valid and that all work for a specific, like everyone will have their own view of it and all of those will be valid because of how well it's done. And I definitely think that this is one of those films. And I agree with you that that is why that ending does hit so hard. I also, after that question, I do have to go back to my eternal question that I typically ask you. And that was, did you know anything about this film? And was it what you expected? And also, did you watch this with your parents?
No, I didn't. You texted me not to.
Yes, I was like, you probably shouldn't.
It did not appear that either of my parents were interested in this at all. And to be honest, I wasn't either. I kind of thought, like, going into it, I was like, oh, I have to watch this movie for the podcast. Yeah. And that's kind of how I felt about the album too, because I was like, I know what Beck is, and I know that's not really my thing. So it was kind of a weird week, but I was, I go into it with an open mind. It was strange though.
Yeah.
I want to bring up one of the movies. Actually, I want to bring up both of the movies.
I'm excited.
That I compared this to. Taxi Driver's one, partly because it's New York, but partly because it's like, it's almost open-ended in a way throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you can kind of interpret whatever you want from it. And the other one is the first movie we ever did, Mulholland Drive, because I had a similar feeling at the end of this where I was like, what am I supposed to feel? What am I supposed to get from it? I don't know. And I actually kind of enjoy that in a way. Mm-hmm. But I will say I liked Mulholland Drive more than I liked this. I feel like
I do agree with
this
that.
was just a little bit messier. But I don't think something like Mulholland Drive can exist without this movie.
I also agree with that. To your point, I feel like when you watch this film, you can definitely see how this helped to kick off the 70s, especially when it comes to its style of storytelling. Like if you watch films from the 70s and the new Hollywood era, a lot of them have a very similar style when it comes to the way they tell their stories. Kind of to your point that Taxi Driver was very similar in a lot of ways. And I think it laid the groundwork for movies later like Mulholland Drive to explore similar ideas, maybe in an even stronger way, which, I mean, I agree with the fact that Mulholland Drive is a stronger film. It's a 5-star for me.
It's better, but it's also like more focused in a way. Like I know Mulholland Drive is kind of all over the place, but it feels intentional about being all over the place, where this just felt a little bit more like it's kind of messy. And I feel like that's why I didn't connect with it as much as I did with Mulholland Drive. But yeah, it is in that similar vein of like,
right,
strange.
Well, I think that the style of this film does work well for what it does try and achieve. Mm-hmm. Even if it theoretically could have been stronger. Like the ending did get me. I do think that there are some portions that are maybe a little bit too long. For instance, like the party scene, stuff like that.
Yes, I agree.
But I do think that it is also very successful in its own specific way of telling this story, even though I do think that Mulholland Drive was more successful at telling a story that has a lot of similarities, while also obviously being very different at the same time. I also did want to ask, obviously, a lot of things change with time, both the way that we tell stories, what we can show in those stories. So I wanted to ask you, how well do you think this film works today? Or how well do you think this film works in today's world?
That's a hard one, because I feel like...
It is hard. I know it is a hard question.
I don't know. We wouldn't be saying the F slur all the time. I can tell you that much.
Well, that's for sure. Yeah.
Overall, it kind of still could work. I feel like it would be more intentional, though, which kind of goes back to my point about Mulholland Drive. Like, I feel like it's very much a first film of this era, first film in this style, in a way where it's like, looking back, we did it better later, but nothing like that we did better could exist without this film. So
right.
I think in the sense of it existing in today, like it would be better. Because now we know like how to make this type of movie a lot more and a lot stronger than it was. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I feel like this type of story could still be told for sure. It would hit slightly different beats, but it's definitely like still a story that like touches you as a human.
I absolutely think that the story could be told. I think it would be told, like you said, more intentionally, with the focus fully being on the relationship instead of kind of having that be the subtext. I think that would be the big difference nowadays. And obviously not having all the slurs.
I agree with that. I think I do like the fact that it's kind of like subtext in this movie. And I feel like that would still be
that too.
It'd still be possible to do today.
Yeah.
But I feel like you would be allowed to do more just in general, because
you definitely would be.
Hollywood has, it may not be woke, but it has gotten more progressive in the whatever 50, 60 years since this came out.
God, we're old.
Yeah, there's we weren't alive in 1969 anyway.
Close enough.
Yeah, close enough. But yeah, I feel like there's just a lot more that you're allowed to do as a writer and as a director, even if it's not necessarily going to be in the film, like in the final cut. It's just like you can be intentional that this movie, that the point of this movie and the subtext of this movie is going to be they're in love with each other and they're gay. Like that wasn't something you could do back then. And I feel like because of that, this would be a better movie if it was made today. Just that fact alone, forgetting about all the other things about how we know how to make movies better and make movies in this style better. Just the fact that you can address that they are in love with each other in some way or be a little bit more intentional about it, I think that would just make it, I mean, it would be a better movie.
I do wonder how this film would have been if Schlesinger could have been more into, like if he had the opportunity to be more intentional. But I guess we'll never know.
Right. Yeah. I will say, however, the third act of this movie I thought was very well done. And if I was updating it for the present day, I would not change anything about that third act. I feel like everything there fits exactly what you want. Now, act 1 and act 2, I don't know. I could take it or leave it in certain parts. And I feel like some of the flashback scenes, some of the like backstory stuff isn't done as well as I would have liked it to be.
It feels a little muddy in some ways to me.
Exactly. And that's kind of where I get a little bit of that Mulholland Drive thing. And then you have that weird ass party scene where it's just like, okay, I don't fully understand why this was here, but sure, I guess.
Right.
But I do think that the emotion that the film takes in the third act is very well thought out and well done, and it elicits that reaction that they wanted.
Well, and I think the third act works so well because by that point, like seeing the state that Ratso was in, it's kind of like there's no way that he's not going to die. And I think that's a big reason why it works so well, because you know it's kind of like trying to like stay as much as possible, even though it's inevitable that he's not going to. I think that's a big reason why it does work for me.
I will also say it ends badly, which I like, you know. I've said that before.
I also like that,
Like, I feel like it's a good end to the story, but it also is like something that I enjoy, so...
Well, and it ends badly, but I'm happy that it's not like a giant melodramatic
It feels natural.
thing. Yeah. Like, it ends badly, but it also ends with Joe putting his arm around Rizzo. I said Rizzo. Which I think is a really beautiful moment in a very depressing way. So yeah, I completely agree with that.
I do find it funny that the character's name is Joe Buck, when that is a real person who's a sportscaster and like very famous at being a sportscaster.
I wonder what he thinks about that.
He definitely, well, actually, I don't know if he's younger than this. 1969 might be around the like perfect time for him to be born. You know, he might be like...
His mom went to the movie theater and she was like, hey, I like that name.
Yeah, my last name's Buck. I might as well name my kid Joe. Like, exactly. I don't know.
Here we go.
But I had to mention that at some point during this episode.
With that, those are all the questions that I had. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Not anything new necessarily. I feel like overall, I feel like the film is kind of messy, but like it has to be because of, you know, the story it's telling and in the time it's telling it specifically. So for that reason, it didn't stick with me as much as I was hoping it would when knowing what it's about. But it is a 3. Same as Taxi Driver.
I got close.
Yeah. Going in, reading the log line, which I actually did before this, which is, you know, unusual for me.
Yeah.
I was like, this is a 2.5. But it ended up being a 3. And I think a lot of that is because of the third act.
Right.
The third act really like sells this movie for me.
That does make me happy.
And I also love when something ends well, not necessarily well for the characters, but it has a good ending, because then that's the last thing you're remembering, you know? It's like you're going out on a high note. And I feel like this movie definitely did it. It took me quite a while to get into it, I will say. And then once it did, I was like, okay, that's fine. But then the end is very nice, and it's a lot of beats that I enjoy, like death and sadness.
I will say, well, don't we all enjoy that?
Sometimes.
It's a lovely part of life. I will say something I wanted to shout out before I give my score is the music. because I think it is fitting in a very, it fits even though it feels like it shouldn't.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like.
And this is something that we don't do in movies anymore, where you have like one song essentially that comes back multiple times for like multiple montages.
Which I really like.
It's pretty fun. It's like, it's got character, it's got heart to it, where it's like, that's our music budget, this one song.
Yeah, there we go. That's where like 1.5 out of our $3 million budget went.
Exactly.
That's where the actors took a pay cut. Yeah, I mean, I agree with the fact that it does definitely feel like a film that was laying the groundwork for a lot of other films to come. This film is a 4. It is a movie that I do like. It's a movie that I respect a lot too. It definitely feels like a lot of it could have been more intentional, even though I think the fact that like the subtext is very much in the background does make it a very interesting film. And I do really like that when films do that. And I think that when a lot of filmmakers have these like restraints on them, that ends up leading to even better art, because they have to find ways of being creative when it comes to showing something, which I do really like, even though I obviously think that people should have the freedom to tell what they want to tell. But yeah, I think this film ultimately does not hit as strong as, for instance, Mulholland Drive, which we've, obviously come back to several times before. And obviously those two films have some elements in common. And I do agree that that film is a movie that takes a lot of similar ideas and moments and does it better. But I think that this film definitely laid the road for so many other movies that it's kind of like impossible for me not to respect what it's doing and how it's doing, considering that stuff like this had never really been done before. And I also think that it does give you a really great snapshot of New York in the 60s, and B, build beautiful vibes. I'm trying to find a better way of saying that, but I think the feelings that he creates with the music and the way it's shot in a lot of moments is really, really beautiful. And that's kind of all I have to say. It's a 4.
I feel like the thing I was trying to say this whole time is it's a movie that suffers from being the first one, as opposed to like...
I can see that. I think it suffers less for me than for you, but I can see what you mean.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily mean that in like a negative way. I guess for me it is a little bit more, but it's like this is doing so much for like the future of movies like this that like you have to give it a little bit of grace, where it's like, it may not be perfect, and neither one of us think it is, but it's like you have to respect it because it did so much. So I'm in that same boat. Obviously I score things a lot lower than you do, but yeah, I did want to mention that because I know that's something we've talked about before on here, both with music and movies, where it's like, this is the first, and like, maybe it's not as good as other things that have come after, but it's important that it exists. And I'm glad I watched this, because this is not something I ever would have watched or necessarily heard about before, unless I was looking at Best Picture winners. So, because I feel like this does not get talked about like at all.
I feel like it barely does get talked about. Yeah.
I mean, considering there is one other person I follow on Letterboxd that has rated this movie outside of you, I would say that's a pretty good barometer of people not knowing about this.
I got to check and see how many people I know rated it.
But if you want to check what we rated it on Letterboxd or on Rate Your Music, you can follow us there, because we have accounts there and we post about everything we watch and listen to. Maybe. I don't know. David doesn't listen to a lot, so maybe that is truly all he listens to on Rate Your Music.
Yeah.
And I think I've logged 2 or 3 movies outside of the podcast. So anyway, if you want to see what our ratings are, or you want to look back on what we've watched and listened to, what we gave things in the past, you can check those out. Those are at our link tree, which is in the description of this episode. And it's also in the bio on our Instagram.
Ooh.
Which, David, tell them about what they can see on the Instagram.
Let me put it like this. If you are like, oh my God, what is next week's episode? I want to watch and listen to be prepared to understand the points that they're making, because I want to be smart. Then you can go and find that literally on our Instagram. Our post for next week's episode is up right now.
I can guarantee it.
That's right. I can guarantee you that I've started to schedule them. So they're guaranteed to come out on time instead of like in the middle of the day when the episode has been out for like 7 hours. So yay. Go check that out. And Brandon, if they want to like reach out to us to tell us about how they think we're amazing or how they feel the gay subtext of the podcast, where can they reach out?
Well, that would be, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes.
That'll be our email, upcpod@gmail.com, or you can leave a comment on Spotify, leave a review on Apple, tell your family and friends about the podcast.
And your enemies.
Exactly. And tell anyone on the street that you think looks like they listened to Beck in the 90s. So once again, follow that Instagram. Stay updated with everything we have to offer. We're going to be posting on social media as well. I cannot believe I forgot to mention that last episode, but stay tuned because we're going to be doing that. We'll talk about it on here. We'll post about everything. And there's nothing else I can say other than see you next week.
Bye.